universal means of communication that we have. What speaks louder to you? Someone's voice or their body language? Today, I want to share a story or an idea about what we can do with our body language. Don't move. Consider your positioning right this second. Are your shoulders moved forward? Your hands or your feet crossed? Are you making yourself smaller? I see you getting bigger over there. Or are you sitting back? Are you making yourself larger like Reed back there? Spread out a little bit, taking up more space in the room. Think about my body language. When I came up here, I was big, I was loud, I was here. How did you perceive that? That's what I want to talk about today. So to get started, I want to first ask you all to look at those papers that I passed around to each one of you. And if you would love to, which I would love you to, assume one of these positions. And we're going to do it for 2 minutes. I will time it and let you know when that time's up. So if everybody could just jump into one of these positions, any one that you like. It's been well studied and well documented that nonverbal communication conveys a message to other people. Did you know that it also conveys a message to your own body? That's what I want to talk about today. Last time I spoke, if you all were here, you remember my icebreaker speech where I talked about this feeling of being an imposter, this feeling of being a fraud, this feeling that I wasn't really as good as maybe other people. It was a difficult thing for me to overcome. During the time that I first moved into a supervisory role and I started to feel that, I researched some ideas about how can I overcome this? How can I get past this fraud feeling that I've got going on? And I came across this social psychologist, Amy Cuddy. She did a TED Talk in 2012, and during that TED Talk, she talked about something, and it's what you're doing right now. It's called power posing. She talked about how these power poses can help us facilitate our body's chemistry and how we perceive ourselves. I came across this, it seemed interesting, but honestly, what you're doing seems kind of silly. It seemed impractical. How am I going to power pose before I meet with people? How am I going to stand like this for 2 minutes before I meet with someone and not look silly? Or like this, or any of these other poses that are on here. So I really enjoyed that TED Talk. However, I did not take it into effect right away. And as time went on, this confidence issue began to affect me internally and questioning myself, and externally, where individuals really weren't buying into what I was trying to say to them because I didn't have the confidence of myself to be able to help them understand that. One day, I had to give this meeting in front of about 25 people in one of the groups. You guys can stop now. I had to do this meeting in front of one of the groups, and I had to go in there and tell them, you guys are working really, really hard, but you're not meeting the business expectations. That's a really hard thing to tell a group of 25 people all at once. In order to help you meet those expectations, we're going to change your job. We're going to ask you to do things a little bit differently. I was so nervous. I did not want to get up in front of a group of about 25 people and say this to them. Before that meeting, I remembered this TED Talk, and so I walked into the bathroom and I stood in the bathroom stall at my job like this for 2 minutes. I am positive if anybody had noticed what I was doing, they'd have laughed at me. But I did it for 2 minutes. Maybe this will work, it'll help me. I'm Superwoman. After my 2 minutes, I went into the meeting. I was the third person to go up. They had 2 other people before me who were going to say some things, and then I had to give the bomb, drop the big news. So during the meeting, I stood in the back of the room in a semi-Superwoman pose, trying to keep that confidence built up. When it was my turn to talk, I walked right up to the front, and I gave the information. I told this group of people, you may be working really hard, but it's not meeting expectations. Obviously, it was much longer than that, but that's basically what I had to say to them. When I delivered that, I was confident, competent, and in control. I felt great, and after I finished speaking, after I finished telling these people something really hard to hear, the entire room erupted in cheers.
Whoa.
I was completely shocked. How did this happen? Afterwards, they were coming up to me, telling me, you made me feel inspired. You stirred me. I am so excited about these new changes. I can't wait to do these things. I was so scared they were going to be turning in their resignations in the next couple of days, but they weren't. I want to tell you how this works for a couple of minutes. In the animal kingdom, there's two reactions when an animal is faced with danger. One is to get big and growl, and the other is to run and hide. These come from your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands release hormones in times of high stress. Your hormones may be adrenaline, which pumps more testosterone, making you feel confident, ready to cash that check if you need to. The other is cortisol, and cortisol is making you hide, get under a table, fear, cower, those kind of things. Your body is going to present these anyway. In the world, honestly, we came from an animalistic time. So while we see this in the animal kingdom, it works with us as well. When we're in high stress especially, that's when it works. So think about how each of you felt if you held that pose for the full 2 minutes. Did you feel a little more confidence? Maybe it was just a little. Maybe it wasn't as much. But next time that you're in a high stress situation, you're going to release cortisol or testosterone, period. Why not control which one it is? By assuming the power pose. So we'll get a little nostalgic here and tell you that that's what I did during my icebreaker and while I was sitting there waiting today. Thank you very much.
Growing up in a military family and then serving the military myself has given me a special appreciation for two of the smaller holidays we celebrate every year. These are Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Over the last few years, I've realized there's a lot of people that don't know the difference between these two holidays and why we celebrate each one individually. Considering this weekend is Memorial Day, I figured it would be a great topic to discuss. Veterans Day was started after World War I. World War I ended in June of 1919 with the Treaty of Versailles. However, the fighting itself had ceased 7 months earlier when an armistice went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. For this reason, in 1919, President Wilson decided to call November 11th Armistice Day as a way to honor those that had served in World War I. It became a federal holiday in 1938 to celebrate world peace and honor those particular veterans. In 1954, after World War II and the Korean War, Congress changed the name from Armistice Day to Veterans Day to honor those that had served in every conflict and not just particularly World War I. Veterans Day we celebrate as a family by going to a Veterans Day parade, making sure we tell those that we know and those that we see out, thank you for serving. It is made as a way to give thanks to those that are currently serving and those that have served. That is the whole point of Veterans Day. I'm not gonna lie, my favorite part of Veterans Day is the free food my husband and I get at a whole bunch of different restaurants. Now, Memorial Day is a completely different holiday. When most people think of Memorial Day, they think of the beginning of summer, cookouts and barbecues and having a great time with family and friends. And that is totally fine, and I'm glad everybody can enjoy it and think of it as a really fun holiday. However, those that it is really made for do not find it quite so joyous. Memorial Day was started 3 years after the Civil War in May of 1868. It was originally called Decoration Day, and it was made for everybody to go out and decorate the graves of the soldiers that had fallen in the Civil War. May 30th was chosen as the date because flowers would be in bloom all across the country. In 1971, it became a national holiday, was changed to Memorial Day, and also changed from the 30th of May to the last Monday in May. And then in 2000, Congress passed the National Moment of Remembrance Act. This act encourages all Americans on Memorial Day at 3 p.m. to have 1 minute of silence in honor of those that gave the ultimate sacrifice. my last assignment in active duty gave me a very special appreciation for Memorial Day. The brigade I was with in the 101st was about to deploy to Afghanistan. My husband was deploying also. I had decided I was getting out so we could have kids. The brigade commander and the redetachment commander both approached me one day asking me if I would stay in through the deployment on rear detachment and help because they were so short-staffed. I was like, sure, why not? It would probably be better if I was busy, and that way I would actually know what was really going on and not just what they tell the spouses, which in hindsight was really not a good idea, not for my stress levels. But I stayed, and I had no idea that it would be the most emotionally challenging job I've ever had. The brigade's casualties from the day that they got there to the day they came home were much higher than we expected. Every month, we lost multiple soldiers. Every month, the division would hold a memorial ceremony for these soldiers and their families. That day, every month, the families of these soldiers would come to the brigade headquarters. You would see young women, not even women, girls, 19, 20-year-olds that are now widows. Some of them were pregnant with their first babies. You would see young children and school-aged children running around the headquarters with pictures of their dead father on their shirts. You would see older families whose child had just graduated high school the year before, that was now, they just put into the grave. We would spend the day with them. We'd hear their stories. We would laugh, we would cry. We would take them to a beautiful ceremony at the division headquarters where they would be able to walk around and see the plaque of their soldier on the wall. There was never a dry eye in the place by the time the ceremony was over. It was very difficult for me, especially one, being pregnant, and two, knowing it could easily be me sitting there in that chair. That experience has given me a very good appreciation for what Memorial Day really is. I'm glad everybody can enjoy it as parties and barbecues, but at the same time, you need to remember those that are still suffering, those that are grieving the loss of a loved one, those children that will never see their family again. So this Memorial Day, I encourage you at 3 p.m. to give 1 minute of silence to remember those that have given their life for their country, and to say a prayer for those families that are still grieving. Thank you.
I wants us to know that she is not too sweet. The purpose of her speech today was a fact-finding report. Lots and lots of stats, lots of data. It had the propensity to be boring, but instead she chose a topic that we all really enjoy. Who loves sugar? I love sugar! Really? I'm the only one? Yay! Okay.
After her talk?
And what I decided to do was guilt us out of liking sugar. How appealing is that? It was a tough speech. You had a lot to cover. The more information, the more stats you present, the more guilty we feel at the end. A few visual aids, the sugar, which I always thought 10 teaspoons. Maybe my teaspoon little thingy is bigger than hers. I don't know, these little Asian teaspoons. Itty bitty little teaspoons. But there was a really good visual. You had a lot of hand gestures as far as the high levels of sugar, your brain activity, lots of good hand gestures. I didn't see a lot of, I didn't hear a lot of highs and lows in your voice. You had a perfect opportunity during the question time, when Jeremy asked about the artificial sweeteners. A great response would have been, stay away! But instead, we just kind of answered, well, you know, they originally were created to be insecticides, which is great. It was great information, but I'd like to see you move a little bit outside your comfort zone to maybe make either impactful statements. The word snarky keeps running in my head. I know that's more my personality. But quick comebacks or ways to bring the information together. You always give us a ton of great information. It's just a matter of, I'd like to see you get maybe more in somebody's face. And this was the topic to do it. You're right, the effects of sugar are damaging. And the people who are putting it in our foods don't care about our health. They care about selling the information. But you see what I did? I was just like, yeah, get passionate about it. You know what I mean? I don't know what your next speech is going to be, but it's always tough. Whenever you give an evaluation, you're giving information based on this specific topic. And next time you might choose to talk about your kids. And I told the kids to go to bed! And it doesn't really match.
I can do that.
I'm sure. Now see, that might be a more appropriate topic to get her on a roll. But thank you for your speech, and I'm so grateful. I'm happy for you that you're now an advanced manual. Great job.
Yeah, I'm evaluator, Michelle. What's going on with that? I love your attitude. Yeah! Good energy. Very good. Let me shake your hand. You did excellent. You're a good speaker. I like your attitude, that body movement, that way you talk. I understand everything. Just maybe talk a little bit more slow sometimes. But other than that, was excellent. It's very important because, like I was demonstrating, you have to, your body movement is very important. When you shake a hand to somebody else, to someone, and they say, and you tell, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm fine. You mean you're fine, You can say you're fine, but your body, demonstrate more, That percentage is higher, right? That's what you were saying. That beginning, excellent. When you finish, was good. Everything, I love it. I like the way you stand up here about the superwoman. Is excellent. You have to do that to to approach everyone. Bad stuff, nothing. I'm thinking but everything's good. The body language, the way you talk, you're playing very good. Great. I don't know what to say. Yeah, great.
Samantha, it's always a pleasure to hear you when you come up and do your speeches. You did your second speech on organizing your speech, and I say you've come a long way in a short period of time from your first speech. You can see the nerves, but I can tell that you know what you're talking about. You're very passionate. The passion shows through and through, and I believe I speak for all of us when I say we felt that passion. With saying that, the cards that you have, you don't need them. You don't need them at all. I would say let that passion that you have guide you. We love to hear you speak. And because we love to hear you speak, we want you to know that you're a family. And don't be afraid to let go, and don't be afraid to fully express what you're talking about. Because this is something that this is a life that you live. And I believe that we all, again, felt the impact from what you were saying. You're very informative. It made me reconsider Memorial Day. On a day like today, I had my family reunion. And I began to say that my family reunion was bigger than Memorial Day. I was saying that, Memorial Day should be called Anderson Family Weekend. I won't do that anymore. Because you showed me the impact, how important this day is. I have an uncle that's in the Army, and thankfully he's made it through. Thank you for reminding us that. Your eye contact, your tone, I loved it. I would encourage, again, to get passionate, give us some vocal variety. Very moving, very meaningful. You tie it perfectly into the theme, of course. I would encourage a stronger opening. A moment of silence, that's what you said in your speech. I would encourage giving us that in the very beginning. let us dwell on the reason for this weekend and what it truly does mean to us. Like I said, a little more vocal variety. And again, just continue to do what you're doing. I think you're gonna be a very effective speaker. You're probably gonna make me cry when it comes to humor, your humor speech. Great job again. Thank you.